Hello, hello. We'll get started in just a little bit. Thanks so much for coming. Hi, thank you guys so much. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We'll start right at 6 o'clock. Thanks. Hello, good evening, everybody. We have several folks here, but we still have a few folks who are going to join us. So in effort to give them that moment, I'm going to slowly get my screen shared again because I would like to start with sharing the, uh, my apologies, we're going to share the data that was, that's going to be shared at the board meeting, but the specific data pertinent to our site. We're also going to, got it. Mr. Durham is gonna, And Mr. Durham is going to join us and just let me know he's got the wrong link. So let me send him the correct link and then he'll be joining us to share this data. We'd like to spend most of this meeting collecting feedback from students, from staff, from anybody who's willing to share, any parents, any families, any community members, so that we can figure out the best way to spend our funds for students next school year. We additionally have a little bit of flexibility where we can make this year as well. But this is the focus for the next school year, 22-23. And then additionally at the end, we'll make sure there's open comment for any questions related to this or not related to this. And then we'll see what we can do to make sure we answer them. Ms. Schroeder is here as a staff member. Ms. Irving is as well serving as a staff member, and she is running just a few minutes late, but will be joining us momentarily. Thank you all so much for joining us. Mr. Durham has just joined us, and I'm going to put him on the spot right now because I didn't confer with him ahead of time. But Mr. Durham, were you going to present the data, or would you prefer I presented that data and such?
No, I've already got it set up on my computer. If I can, let's see.
Do I need to give you rights?
Yeah, make me so that I can screen share when the time is right. But yeah, I'm all set to do it when it's.
Nope, this is perfect time. So we're ready to jump into that.
Okay.
If we want to, yeah, we're ready to jump right into it.
Okay. So.
And I think I just made you a co-host, so I'm hoping.
Yep, it's.
Okay.
I'm.
Okay, good. Making sure I didn't mess anything up. Oh,
navigated right to it. So this is there's 4 slides. Oh, go ahead.
I'm so sorry if I haven't already said that. Mr. Durham is our director of learning for all 4 schools at Griffin Technology Academies. So he is here to support all of us. And so he's got all of this data collected and worked out, and he's going to share that for us. And he's also prepared the form that I've shared just now, or just today before the meeting, on Parent Square, which is another opportunity for you to provide written feedback in addition to this meeting. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Durham.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, and I'm going to go over that as well. So what this is the it's 4 slides that have to do with Griffin that I shared with the board last 2 weeks ago as part of our mid-year LCAP presentation. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. I just want to make sure you see it, and I really want to answer any of your questions about it. So the big thing here on this slide, this is the middle school goal 1, academic performance for the students. And the thing to note here is that there are 6 metrics that are written into our LCAP plan, and we have mid-year progress on 5 of them. The reason we didn't have progress on 1 of them is because I got hired on February 14th, and so I started pulling data that others either didn't have time and in more cases didn't know how, but we've got that. So I'm actually going to show you some of that data here in a minute. And then the other thing to note about our LCAP is this expenditure number. So when the board adopted this plan in June, it anticipated spending $445,000 on this item. But as of the middle of the year, we'd only spent $169,000. There's 2 reasons that number's smaller. One is it's the middle of the year, and so we still got some of the year to go. And the second is because enrollment is lower than projected. So we will spend less because if the projected number of students aren't in the school, we're not going to spend as much as they budgeted for or anticipated. Here, this is the high school. And this was like when this presentation was prepared for me, and when I was talking to the consultant who prepared it, I'm like, whoa, like there's 8 that are missing. Like, what are we doing wrong is what I asked her. And she's like, actually, nothing. A couple of these we should have data for and we should be able to pull. But some of these, because it's for the high school, they're like graduation rates and we don't have seniors yet. So it's going to be not in progress because some of these are tied specifically. Some of these LCAP metrics are tied specifically to seniors, and we don't have them yet. So it's not as bad as this first looked to me. And I was happy when I got that answer and it made sense. Same thing on the expenditures here. We're only halfway through the year, so the number's smaller than the total. But the total number we spend by the end of the year will be smaller than this, again, based off that smaller enrollment. And again, this is for academic performance at the high school. This is goal 2, and it's the same for both the middle and the high school. And so we've got the middle school on the left and the high school on the right. We're 2 for 2 on the middle school. We're 2 for 1 on the high school. The one I'm actually pulling data for now, and so we're 2 for 2 there now. And same number on same answer on the numbers and why they're different, but everything's as is expected based off of our enrollment. It would be nice if it were higher and closer to the projection, but the money that we do have that we can spend for the students that we do have is being spent in the right places and on the things that the board adopted as priorities for the LCAP. And then we only have 3 goals. This is goal 3, conditions and climate. And again, it's another situation where we didn't have access to the data at the time of this report. So we were 8 of 4 and 8 of 4, but we're creating the systems now. And actually, it's a big passion and push of mine that we have all of the data that we need all of the time. The directors don't know this yet, but and I probably won't start it now because you don't start complex things at the end of the school year after a challenging year. But next year, we will have, if not more frequent, at the very least, structured monthly data chats, and then quarterly data summits that are a little bit bigger, and those will get presented to the community via PTSA meetings and school site council meetings, and also to the board, because there's a lot of really great information that we could have access to that we're not currently utilizing, and we should be. Any clarifying questions for any of that from anyone? Okay, so the next piece is, so I mentioned that we have some data that we didn't have, but now we do. It's been posted online since Saturday, so I am not sharing something that's not out there in the public already. This is the presentation that I'm sharing with the board in the board meeting tomorrow night, and I just want to go over the Griffin parts of it for you. See if you have any questions, because if you have them, somebody might have them in the presentation tomorrow. So I want to proactively address them when I present it to the full GTA community tomorrow. And so I always start data presentations with something like this. And really what this slide is intended to do is to say, all right, stop before you make a judgment on anything you're about to see. Like, don't fall in that trap. What we should be looking at data to do is to really look at it to ask better questions, to wonder better wonders. Like, okay, it's that way. Why is it that way? Do we know what about our system is creating those results? Because if we spend time figuring out why things are the way they are, it gets us to solutions much faster than if we say that's bad data and we're trying to blame someone for something. My take on data and what I'll preach in trying to build a culture of accountability with administrators and teachers and the board and everyone is that the only bad data is the data that someone brings to us that we don't already know. If we know it's a problem and we come up with a plan to help resolve it, and we have that plan in action, and we're already, and the plan could be wrong. Like, we're in action and we're getting early data on our plan and it's not working. that's okay. That's part of trying to fix things. Denzel Washington in a really great commencement speech, I was talking to a class, I think it was at Pittsburgh University, and he said that, challenging things are challenging because if they were easy, somebody would have already done it. It'd already be done and it wouldn't be challenging. Like we're going to fail when we're trying to fix challenging things. And if the only negative we can have when it comes to student performance data is when we don't know something's broken. So please keep that in mind. This first one, Griffin Middle School. So all the way to the left, we've got 62 students who don't have any Fs on any course and anything in their report card for semester one. We've got 31 who had one F, and we've got 55 who have more than one, so two or more. At Griffin High School, it's 72, 27, and 65. And the reason I choose to show that how many have one number is Arne Duncan, before he became the Secretary of the Department of Education for the US government, he was the superintendent of Chicago Public Schools. And one of the programs that he created there and is now kind of a national model for people who are nerds when it comes to student data and student achievement like me, is this idea of freshmen on track. If you can keep a freshman on track, meaning they don't fail more than one class, so they can have one F and still if we can keep it to one or none, their odds of graduating high school on time are nearly 100%. But when we have a student failing multiple classes in a semester, then we know there's a problem. So I'm always going to track that number. How many have none, how many have one, and then how many have more than one, because it's going to let me know how healthy our program is and how much harder we may have to work. And then because I think we live in California, it's extremely diverse, and we know that historically students of underrepresented populations have grade disparities and their inequities in grading. I did do it by race. So this is multiple Fs by race by school. And so Griffin Middle School is the dark purple on the left. Griffin High School is kind of that light purple, the second one. MIT Middle is the blue, and MIT High School's the lighter color there on the end. And so you can see, and for the purposes of this, most of our Hispanic students, because Hispanic's not a race, most of our Hispanic students select decline to state on race, and then on the ethnicity question, they select Hispanic. And so as you can see, just from the graph, the majority of our students who have multiple Fs are Hispanic and or Black. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about. And the conversation that we need to have is why, what's going on in our grading practices that might be attributing to that. Again, without blame, these are the facts. This is the information we have. Let's work together towards solutions. So before I transition to some happy stuff, does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. I will show you this slide. This is Griffin High School. This is just demographic breakdowns of how many students we have. So there's 164 students at Griffin High School. The class of 2024, that would be our 10th graders. Yes.
So sorry, there's a raised hand. With this much, so sorry, I just realized. I apologize.
Yeah, raised hand, please ask.
Thank you. Yes. Well, I have several questions, but
Oh, sure.
first, when you were going over the numbers of
Yes.
and you kind of answer it, you said that the difference, whatever money doesn't get spent, is decided by the board, where that money is going to go.
What I should have said and what I meant to say is that all of the money that is earmarked to be spent on a specific board priority item will be spent on that because they've adopted a plan and we have to follow it. But we will spend less because those budget numbers, they were projected on a larger number of students. We have a smaller number of students, so the state's going to give us a smaller amount of money. So there's not going to be leftover.
Okay.
But we will spend a smaller amount because we have fewer kids. That's what I should have, if I didn't clarify that correctly the first time, I'm sorry.
Thank you. And the other question, so when we were looking at the slide that you just finished sharing.
Yeah, I'll go back to it.
So we are assuming, because you're right, Latino is not a race. So
Yeah.
we are assuming that those declined to a state are Latinx, right?
And I'll tell you, all but about 8% of them are Latinx. I know for a fact. The others did select a race, but didn't, they selected not Hispanic on the ethnicity question, but this here. So they genuinely just declined to state but they said, I'm not Hispanic. So almost all of these are Latinx.
So is there any way that present this piece of data in a different format?
There's lots of ways. I can present data in any format to improve the conversation. One of the things, though, I have to be careful of is that I want to overload everyone. The people who taught me how to tell stories with data said, as things get better, and what I mean by better, right now, half of all kids at every school have an F. More than a third at every school have at least 2 or more. When that number gets down to like 20% or below, now we get really granular and we start doing what you're talking about. But right now the problem is so big. There's so many students that are failing classes that we have to start with a broad strategy. And as we get closer to where we want to be for all students, then we start refining it the way I think you're
yeah, just so you know, because not everybody's clear about that, right?
Yeah.
That a lot of people don't know that Latinx is not a race, but somehow to make Latinx parents feel like your kid is being counted, because that's what I'm afraid of. Like, I don't want Latinx people to think that, where are we? Like, you know what I mean? If there's any other way.
And my background, my mom's family, soy Olvedo. Mi familia son de Monclova, Mexico. So, I mean, I know, like, with me, those kids aren't going to get lost. So yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And I'll look at updating that that one for the presentation.
Thank you. Just so parents know.
Yeah, and that's why I'm showing it to people, so I can make it better when I show it to everybody.
Thank you.
Yes. There's the last thing, and then I'm going to go down to the happy stuff. Right here, this SED, this is students with socioeconomic disadvantage. So kids on free and reduced lunch and whatnot. I looked at Fs and As by this demographic, and Griffin Academy, it didn't matter. The same number of A's for if you were poor as you were if you weren't. The same number of F's if you were poor or if you weren't. So it was very just like, this is our breakdown, and it's even. At MIT middle and MIT high, there was a discrepancy. There were fewer A's with students of socioeconomically disadvantaged and statistically significant fewer. There was even more significant were the number of F's for students who had a socioeconomic disadvantage. I raise hand again. Go ahead. Question.
Miss Matei, did you have another question or is that from before?
Oops, sorry, that was the one.
No problem, just check. Thanks.
All right, just making sure, yeah. All right, so down to the happy stuff. So we take NWA map growth assessments, and we don't currently do a very good job of them. And what I mean by that, we should have every student in all 4 schools take them in the fall. We should have every student in all 4 schools take them in the middle of the year in the winter, and every student take them in the spring. We will have every student take them in the spring in May, because what we want to know is right now the average score, this is an achievement score of 208 at Griffin Middle School for 6th graders. That's their average score. Well, nationally, the average score is 219, but we really don't, it shouldn't matter to us that this score is 219, because if this average score was 192 in August and it's 208 now, like, our teachers are doing a fantastic job. And so this is one of the reasons that we need to take the test every assessment period so that we can see growth. We can see measurable growth. And so these numbers are lower than the national average in math. And also for the high school, they're lower. But really where the power of this assessment system comes from being able to see, okay, where were you in August? Where were you in December? Where are you in May? I'm going to get to a couple more things here. This is reading. You can see our reading scores are higher, and that trends with SBAC scores in the state. SBAC scores are higher in English language arts than they are in math across the state. And the same is true for our NWEA. We've got, we're much closer to that norm, and actually in the 6th grade, we're over, and then we're right at it in the 10th grade. And so, but again, it doesn't really matter to me what that score is over there on the far right. I want to see what is the Griffin 6th grade score in January, and what is the Griffin 6th grade score in May. Like, the kids are coming to work and working every day. The teachers are coming to work and working every day. I want to celebrate their growth, how much better they're getting, regardless of where they started. And then the same thing for this score, and I'm super passionate about this one. This is the Lexile score. This is the reading score. We want all of our kids in the 6th grade to be at a score of about 1,000. And the reason we want them to be at a score about 1,000, that means any book that they get, they'll be able to read and understand. And we do have students in our schools, and I know who they are, and I've shared with the teachers who they are. Their Lexile scores are in the range of 250 to 700. They're reading at the 1st, 2nd grade level up to about the 5th grade level. And that's, for in some cases, more than 2 or 3 grade levels beneath the grade that they're currently enrolled in. And so one of the things that we need to do as a school system is next year, when we're creating the master schedule, we need to make sure those students are in an English support class where the focus is just, let's become better readers. Because if we want to build educated students who can be successful in life after high school, they're going to have to be able to read to work, to be able to access information. And we don't want them to be illiterate when they leave our schools, or struggle when they leave our schools because they have difficulty reading. My daughter, my youngest daughter, she's a low reader. Her parents, her mom and dad, were bad. They didn't read to her as much as they did their other two kids. But she listens to a lot of audiobooks, and her sisters read to her. She doesn't read, but she listens. So her reading comprehension is strong. So if somebody's reading to her, she understands the story. But reading the book herself, she struggles with. And I want to make sure that we don't have students that experience that same thing, because I made that mistake with one of my kids. Areas for growth, again, Black, Hispanic, English language learner, redesignated English language learners, our long-term ELs, and at MIT, our students with economic disadvantage. We have to do a better job. And right now, the question and wonder is, what is going on? Why are we not serving each of these populations the way we're serving the other populations in our school? We need to re-engage the teachers in this PLC culture. And what this is a PLC is a professional learning community. And I asked the question of a group of teachers the other day, like, are you a PLC, or do you do PLC time? Like, is there just like, you're a PLC that meets on Tuesdays from 9 to 10, or are we a PLC that, like, 24/7, we are a community that connects with each other, shares best practices, and we're thinking about how we can help kids. And what I've found from just experience is, when administrators say, okay, you're a PLC and you've got to meet at this time, then teachers treat it as just like it's a meeting and it's a compliance thing. And I don't want to do that. I want to treat teachers like professionals. I want to take some of the most of the A to G money, and I want to pay to give them time so that they can work on the things that they already know and want to work on to help kids. And then again, striving to have all of the kids take the test. Joanna, hand up.
Hi. So I 100% agree with that. I think one of the things that we are missing as a school is being able to dig into that data and use it productively, proactively in our teaching. But one of the major issues with that is there's not any time built into our schedule. So if we're planning on doing more of that next year, is that something that's going to be taken into consideration when creating the schedule? Because we don't
Lord,
have
I hope so.
time to meet at all as it is.
No, I mean, I absolutely hope so. And the other thing I want to do, and I know it's not ideal, but last ditch alternative is find PLC leads who tell me when they're, like, let's say you're leading a team in a PLC, and you all are working asynchronously to solve a specific problem. So you've got, 4 hours this week that I'm going to pay you to do this work. I'm not going to micromanage your time, but I am going to expect deliverables and an impact on student outcomes, if that makes sense.
It does, but I'm just gonna speak from the last 2 years. Sorry, that's my dog. There is no extra time.
Oh, no. And that's why I meant asynchronous, like after school, in the evenings, Saturday, Sunday.
No, that's what I'm saying is, yeah. I already spend, and I know my colleagues will echo this, too much of my evenings and my weekends and everything else on school stuff, because not enough time is built into the schedule for prepping, grading, doing data analysis and everything. So I think if this is something that is felt strongly about, that we need to do this, then it needs to be something that is built into our schedule and not outside of work hours.
Well, and that's why we're going to have our first meeting as a team on Wednesday. And I know it's just about how we're going to attack SBAC testing, but I want the way that meeting goes to be kind of a model for how we tackle all of these issues. So yeah, you guys are going to come to me with the concern you're coming to me with, and I'm going to say, that's great. What plan do you think would work? And I'm going to have you guys design the plan, and then we're going to try it, and then it's going to work or not work, and we'll reiterate, and there'll be 2 or 3 cycles of that, and we'll find the one that works. But we have to be okay trying things and failing at things, but we know where we're trying to go. We're just not sure how to get there yet, or we'd already be there.
And I want to add to that, and that
Sure.
we had a bell schedule that we inherited coming into the school year, and we immediately realized that it was not appropriate for high school for the appropriate number of minutes instructionally required. And so we adjusted that immediately to avoid any issues with the state. And we additionally had to make adjustments around the end of September that ended up adjusting things in not the best interest necessarily of students and staff, just to get a quick fix. And so one thing we already have done is just kind of collect some first information. And another thing I'm doing is working with my staff a little bit more to work on a bell schedule that works. And then, get some feedback from parents, and then talk to Mr. Durham to see if we can make that work for our site as well. So we don't have a finalized bell schedule for next year. Sorry, that's my dog now. But that only partially helps in response to Miss Irving's statement. But I additionally hope that we can adjust things a little bit better as well.
And I'll just add 2 things to that. One being, I'll just, when you come to me with it, I'm just going to say, like, so right now the team believes this is what is best for teachers and students. And you'll say yes, because that's why you're bringing it to me. And I'll say, great, go for it. And the second thing is we're going to have to be okay when it doesn't. And then how do we adjust? Because it's, again, I can't stress enough that we're trying to find the right way that works best for teachers and students. And that means that we're little scientists, and we're iterating to try to find the way that works. And that means we're going to experience some bumps and bruises along the way, but all in effort of finding that spot where kind of the mix is right, and our teaching and working day is more effective, and people feel less stressed, because every school I've ever worked in, I've never met a teacher who didn't just bust their tail all day long. And what I've found, and what I believe to be true, and I'd like somebody to prove to me that I'm wrong, is that teachers work way harder than they need to work because they're trying to reach every kid. If we can create systems where teachers have what we're asking them to do is more focused, and we're not asking them to differentiate for a kid that's got a RIT score of 170 in the same classroom as we're asking them to differentiate for a kid that's 285 and everything in between. If I give you a group of students that are 170 to 190, and then I tell you just work on this one learning target for the next 3 weeks, it just gets a lot easier. You don't have to solve all of the world's problems. You're just working on that one. And I think right now we unrealistically allow a computer to auto-generate a schedule that gives you kids that are in a varied range of skill and ability level. And then we say, good luck. And oh yeah, you need to differentiate along the way. But if they go out for the basketball team, we sort the players by ability level, and we put them on the the varsity, the JV, and the freshman team, because they're in different places of development. But we're going to try to grow them all to be on that varsity one day. So last two slides, these are just wins. One of the data points that I can't actually touch, but I believe to be true, is our staff cares about our students, and our students care about our staffs. Next is we absolutely, as an organization, and specifically because I'm talking about Griffin, have pockets of excellence. There are things that are going exceptionally well that any school would be more than thrilled to have happen at their school, but it's not happening in all classrooms for all students all of the time. And so we want to work towards that. We have 135 6th through 8th graders who are proficient enough in math that they should be accelerated. And of that 135, we actually should have 128 who should be in integrated math 1. So we should have 128 who should be in integrated math 1. Of the 135, we're currently accelerating 5 students. So this is a win that we have 135 that could be. It's something to work on that we're only accelerating 5. We have 142, and this is at Griffin High School. There are 142 9th and 10th graders at Griffin High School who could take the SBAC right now, and they will meet or exceed standard on the ELA. We have 48 current 9th and 10th graders at Griffin High School. Oh, I'm sorry, this is whole. This is not Griffin. So 142 between the two high schools and 48 between the two high schools that could meet or exceed SBAC on math. So we've got some really bright kids, and we just need to make sure that we're supporting them. And then on the other end, I've got students again that are, I've already spoke about earlier, that have those low reading scores that we need to identify them, and we need to put them in support classes so that they can make their way into these numbers and be on these lists before they graduate from our schools. And then there's over 30 of our long-term ELs that are ready to reclassify. I just need access to the TOMS system so I can get them their LPAC test, but they meet 3 out of the 4 criteria right now today. We just have to get them LPAC tested so they meet that 4th criteria. And then last slide of wins. We have 7 students that are in the top 1% of 16.7 million students who took NWA math this year. They are in the top 1%. 5 of them are 8th graders. 1 of them is a 9th grader, and 1 of them is an 11th grader. The 8th grader, the top math RIT score belongs to an 8th grader. He's got a 285 RIT score. My daughter's a sophomore in high school. She's currently has a 98% in her 2nd semester of AP Calculus, and her RIT score is 279. This young man has stronger math aptitude than she does, but we currently have him programmed in a Math 8 class. So we need to do better in building a master schedule for equity. And when I say building a master schedule for equity, what I mean is we have parents that do not know how to navigate our systems or any school district systems the way a teacher would or a principal would. We need to navigate those systems for those kids. We need to make sure that those kids have every door open to them that any teacher or site administrator or district administrator would open for their own children. And that goes for if they were on the low end, if they had low reading scores. We need to advocate for those kids like we would if they were our own child. We have 28 students ranked in the top 1% in growth. And so I sent an email to a group of teachers because there was a young lady who got 3 Fs, but from the fall to the winter, her reading Lexile score grew from the 6th grade to the 4th grade. She grew 2 grade levels in reading, but she didn't know that because her report card said an F in her English and social studies class. So I I let the teachers know. And that was one example of about 80 that I found. So we need to do a better job of celebrating those successes and making sure that those students and those teachers know that the work they are doing every day is having a positive impact in the lives of our students. Joanna, yes.
Sorry, me again. So in previous schools that I've worked at, when we specifically in Vallejo in this district where we have, always a good portion of students who aren't necessarily going to meet the grade level standards. So their grades, aren't always going to be passing, and their SBAC scores aren't always going to be passing. One of the things that we've been able to do is share during parent conferences, or some way share with the parents the MAP scores and go over what that means, so that families and students can see how much growth they're making throughout the year. I just wonder if that's something that we can be implementing, because I know it can be very discouraging for a student or families to see, the Fs or the not passing on the grade level standards on the SBAC. But I think it gives them a lot more hope and encouragement to see, well, your student did start at a fourth grade, level in math, and now they're working at a sixth grade level. So they've made a huge amount of progress. It's just that they're not quite up to where they need to be yet.
Yeah, and that's why I'm such a proponent of this one right here. Strive for 90+% completion on the NWA fall, winter, spring, because if we do this, and it's why we're going to have that assessment calendar meeting. If we do this, so if we do it in the spring, then in the fall, I can get Mac to auto-generate those letters, get them printed out, and then I can get generalists to mail them home. And then teachers can absolutely have conversations with students and parents in conferences. You're absolutely right. We the schools in general, but we also are not yet very good at celebrating our successes. And we need to get better at it, because you guys work too hard to not like take a victory lap when you do these kinds of things. And I do mean that when you and the students do these kinds of things, because as an administrator, I'm not in the classroom teaching them. I'm just trying to create the conditions so that you can be successful with students in the classroom. These honors belong to you and the students. And then, just lastly, we're starting to figure out, what we didn't know. And really the goal with data is we just need to be able to ask better questions. We can't fix or solve problems if we're not asking better questions. I only have one last thing to share with you, but it's about LCAP for the 2022.
There's one more hand, I'm sorry.
Anything for data before we transition to that? Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly say that it's also important, the language, when we talk back about celebrating not only, teachers, but also students and vice versa, talking about the meaning of standardized assessment, right? We all know that, I don't like them personally. So it's important that parents know that, yes, they're important data piece of information, but that's not everything. That's what I personally think. And I think it would be nice if we can share that idea all across.
Well, and here's the thing I want to educate all GTA parents and teachers and students about, because I feel the same way about SBAC as you're talking about right now, but I don't feel that way about NWEA. And the reason I don't is NWEA is not those tests. If a kid scores 215 in reading in NWA, what that means is that student is at a 215. If they're a second grader, they're ready to work at a specific set of English language arts content and curriculum, because that 215 is tied to a specific set of skills and ability level. if a seventh grader scores a 215, then that second grader and seventh grader, they're ready to work at the exact same thing. And if an 11th grader scores a 215, all three of those students, regardless of their age or gender or ethnicity or race or socioeconomic background, like that's where they're at. And standardized tests, they don't do that. But this is just, where is this kid at today? The report that I showed the teachers on NWA, nobody does better than 52% on the test. You will miss half of the questions you get on the test, because what the test is trying to do, it's trying to find your zone of proximal development. So where is it that the questions are hard enough that I'm trying but getting them wrong, and easy enough to where I'm getting at least half of them right, because then that can inform the teacher, like, hey, this is where this kid is at and ready to work. And so really, I have a lot of work to do to educate the teachers, but at the same time, educating the students and the parents that this test is different, because it's just, what are you ready to work on? And then where was I in August? Where am I in January? Where am I in May? I hope that helps. Some more hints?
Yes, Mr. Baker.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to kind of bring up a question / concern, I guess you could say, because I know I've been listening to the whole thing pretty much since I tuned in a little bit ago, and going back to Joanna's previous, not the last one she just made, but the one before that, about, obviously we do a lot of stuff outside of, school time and stuff. And so when we're talking about measurable outcomes, and then we got, basically piggybacking on what she just said about the, celebrating students' successes, but also kind of touching on that part that students do come a lot of times in at a lower, grade level in our area. And so the question that I have is kind of like, I know I also heard, a couple of key things to me, like measurable deliverables and also trying new things. And so my curiosity circles around like what the expectation is going to be, because if we're trying new things, it's like you said, it's not necessarily going to work. And so if we're expected to say like the increasing kids' test scores and the stuff that we're trying isn't working, that's a concern. Like what the expectation actually looks like. And I guess is kind of the question, concern that I have. And sorry, that's my son in the background.
It's fine. So to answer that direct question, it looks like this. I was talking to some of the integrated Math 1 teachers at MIT High School, and I asked the simple question, how many standards are in your course? And they said 42. So that tells me that they're teaching all 42 standards. You all know that I'm coming from a summit school down in Lindsay, and we teach 15 standards. They call them learning targets, but 15 standards out of the same 42, because we've identified that these 15 are essential. And you automatically create more time in the school year to do more things. Like the first 2 weeks of school, we don't even teach math. We have a conversation about, why are we here? Why are we in school? And we guide the students through a whole process that shows them the data that says the average lifetime earning income for somebody with a high school degree is $1.9 million. Congratulations, you're all going to be millionaires. It's going to take you all of your life to do it. But if I graduate from college the same number of years of work and the same number of hours of work, my average income is 3.9. So I can double my lifetime earning income if I graduate from college. And if I get a postgraduate degree, my lifetime earning income is 8.2 million. And so then explaining to students the difference between 1.9 and $3.9 million is 3 high school math classes. Like, you can't graduate high school unless you pass 2 of them in most places. And then if you get that third one, you're now A to G eligible and you can go to a 4-year university in California. And yes, students can go through a community college and matriculate to a 4-year, but if you look at the data, it's much more difficult and much less common that actually happens. And so, hey, we're all in helping you pass these 3 math classes, because we too want you to earn 3.9 million and not 1.9 million for the same number of hours and days of work. And then on top of that, they're going to ask invariably the question, they're going to say, well, when am I ever going to use this again? When am I ever going to do this math again? And we're honest with them. We're like, you are never going to use this math again. You are never going to see the quadratic formula or equation after this class. But just like your favorite basketball or football or soccer player, when do you ever see them with a bench press or a squat rack on the football field during a game? Or Reynaldo doesn't take cones out to the soccer pitch to do agility or plyometrics drills during the game. Why do they do those things? And the kids are all like, oh, that's how they train. Well, math is just a subject that helps you train your brain, develop your critical thinking skills. So if we're real with kids and honest and say, hey, the game of getting to college is passing these 3 classes and doubling your lifetime earning income. And you're right. I'm not going to try to lie to you and say you're going to have to use all of this math in your life, but you are going to have to learn how to think and problem solve. And this is just training for that. I've told many of you this, but the school that the semester before I went there, the fall of 2018, before I went there, 147 out of 289 kids failed integrated math 1. And with the first semester I was there, fall of 2019, 24 out of 307 failed integrated math 1, and they grew 4.7 points RIT on the NWA in a semester. And the company says that average growth is 3 points in a year. So we exceeded yearly growth in 1 semester, and all but 24 passed. And we did that by saying, hey, teachers, guess what? I don't need you to teach all 42 standards. I need you to do 15 really, really well. And then I need you to spend some time building some culture in your classroom and building really, really strong relationships. I actually want you to do less work, but I want you to do it exceptionally well. I want you to build a relationship with this kid. If you do nothing else, I don't care about the math. I want you to make this kid care about their future. And then we'll help them with the math. Joanna.
Hi again. Definitely on board with everything that you are saying. However, it does take a lot of pre-planning to do all of this. So is there going to be any professional development and time to collaborate as subject level teams and do some of this prior to the school beginning? Because I know that once we're kind of in it, it becomes even harder to find the time to make big changes like that. Or do you see this as like gradual over, a year or 2, or what's the plan for that rollout?
That's why I'm asking the board to approve an A to G plan tomorrow evening at the board meeting that allows for me to say yes to you and spend $407,000. So you guys want to go to the beach and stay at a hotel for a week and do some deep PLC work and map all of this out and design all of that? Like, we got the money, but as to what Sean brought up earlier, like, the board and myself are going to expect some deliverables. Like, this work needs to get done. It's not just a paid vacation. Yeah, we'll give you time to go relax and connect as people. But like, we got to come back from something like that, a retreat like that, with very clear, like, these are the standards that are being taught in this class. And I want to start, I want to take every math teacher in GTA and design integrated math 1. I want to take every English teacher in GTA and design English 9. I want to take every social studies teacher and design that 9th grade social studies class. Because if we, as a community, build that freshman class, it's the most important class, that transition between 8th and 9th grade. I don't care what anybody says. If we can help kids get through 9th grade successfully, then they're going to graduate high school. And if we build that together, now the 8th grade teachers can say, okay, the kids have to be able to do this. So this is what we're working on in the 8th grade class. And the 10th grade teachers are like, okay, they're coming to us with this. So they already know tangibly, concrete, they're coming with this. If I want to add something into that 10th grade class that wasn't preloaded in the 9th grade class, then I have to start from the beginning. It's just getting insanely clear about what it is we want students to learn and working together to build that from that middle and then up, and then from that middle down. So my vision is we have $407,000 to do it. I don't care how we do it. I care that it gets done. I care that every kid graduates A to G. I care that every teacher works fewer hours than they did this year. That at the end of the time, like, people just feel more invigorated and they're thinking about not this summer, but the following summer, because how are we going to go back and reiterate and improve after we've gone through it a year? Because we're not going to get it right the first time. And when I worked for Edgenuity, I went to a district in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and they had been using a similar model, and they were on summer number 12. Every summer for the previous 11 summers, they had reiterated and refined every course at every grade level. Because you're either getting better at something or you're getting worse at something. Nobody stays the same. Like, you're either decaying and declining, or you're improving. So
I love it. Thank you so much.
You got me fired up. So
That is the kind of work that I love to engage in, and so I'm really looking forward to doing this work.
Yeah. So last thing from me, and then I'll stay as long as Shannon needs me to stay to answer questions. But you got an email from Shannon via Parent Square. It looks like this. It's for a Google form. We're getting ready for LCAP 2022-2023, and we want your feedback. So this first question, what school does your child attend? You can select more than one. And then these questions come from the priorities that the state set for LCAP. But my child has access to a caring and credentialed teacher, strongly disagree, strongly agree. Child has access to standards aligned instructional materials, school facilities that are well maintained. School involves families in decision making, and they feel like they're active participants and partners in their child's education. Preparing my child for college and career readiness. Believe that my child will graduate on time. A safe environment. The school's fair when it comes to student discipline. The school communicates effectively and on a regular basis. And I don't know how parents are going to answer this, and I'm not going to be offended if the numbers are 1s and 2s, because if the numbers are 1s and 2s, we know very clearly what the community would like us to work on. I rarely look at 4s and 5s. The first thing I look at when I send things out like this is what's down here, because that's going to direct my work. And then just this one last question, it's the only one I really care about. What do they want from their child's school? How do they envision that their child is going to leave high school and be ready to do what? How can the school help them get there? And so we want to send this out. We love it for every parent to fill it out. because then I'll share information like this with the curriculum and instruction committee. I'll share it with the board. I'll share it with the directors. I'll share it with the consultant who's helping to build our LCAP, which eventually will get approved by the board. You know, it's really easy to keep people happy with the organization when you ask them and they answer and you respond. Like you don't have to try to figure out what it is they want when you ask them, and they trust and believe that, you know, you're going to take that feedback and help create a plan to help make that happen. Sorry if I took all your time, Shannon.
No, that's exactly what this whole meeting was about. So that's the whole point. I definitely want to give time for any comments from anyone, questions from anyone, concerns from anyone related to this first. And then I want to make sure we open it up to any, I mean, really, this is about everything. So really about anything. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to jump in.
I have a question. Hi, my name's Christina. I have a ninth grader at Griffin. The data that you shared on the PowerPoints, I noticed that some of them were inclusive of both MIT and Griffin. Is it possible to receive the data for just Griffin students? Because I'm really concerned. Okay.
So
is that public information or something that you can send me directly?
So one of the things, fortunately, both Dr. Martinez, when he was my supervisor, and now acting superintendent Nick Driver, I've asked for the ability to post this information on our board docs, because I think that, you know, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So if you go to board docs for Griffin, and I'll actually start from the beginning instead of just my link. So you go to Griffin Technology Academies, and then GTA board meetings and agendas, and it takes you to our board docs. And then you see right here where it says March 15th, there's a meeting tomorrow. Every time that I have something that I'm sharing with the board, you will have this little piece of paper looking thing right here, student performance mid-year review. And so you click on there, and that whole PowerPoint with everything for all schools is right there. Because it's not mine to keep, it's the community's to take a look at. And like I shared at the beginning of the presentation, let's make sure that we're looking at it with, okay, this is the current reality. What questions do we need to ask to improve that reality? I've been working in education since 2002. I've always disliked working for school leaders that tried to use data as a stick to beat up teachers. I will never use data as a stick to beat up teachers, because I want teachers to love data as much as I do, because I know that there's questions and they can find answers in it to help kids. But to answer your question, it's there. And then I was talking to you about the A to G improvement grant that I'm presenting tomorrow. That's also there. So
okay, I have one more thing. Thank you for sharing that information.
Yeah.
And then first of all, I appreciate all of the teachers that are putting in countless amount of hours to make sure that students like mine have access to what they need and they feel like there's a caring adult. But I'm also concerned about the plan for all of this training and additional time to prepare for students, and what the process is going to be for recruiting teachers and retaining teachers that are committed to this work. So is there a plan in place for that? And I'm not sure if that's something that you would speak to, or Director Harris.
I can speak to the part of it that I shared. So across the state of California, and I didn't share it here yet, but I've shared it with the organization. Across the state of California, districts are having trouble with teachers. There's a little known fact in California Ed Code that says that a district can partner with a university to offer intern credentials. And so I shared this information with Mark Driver. He's currently in charge of HR for our organization. And I shared the link to it. And because he was asking, he's like, you know, he was asking about subs, and I'm like, I don't really know what to do about subs, but I do know that we can have a classrooms full of the teachers we need for next year. If we go to universities right now, Cal State East Bay, Sonoma State, local universities, and we go to their math departments or whatever subject we need, Spanish department, and say, do you have anybody who's about to graduate who would be interested in teaching for a year while they figure out what they want to do? Because I know I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do when I was graduating high school or college, and so we can offer them intern credentials. And what that is they have a credential, they teach during the day, they take 1 or 2 classes throughout the week in the evening. They do take some classes over the summer, and then if after a 3 years period of time, they're actually 2, we can extend it to 3. They are awarded a preliminary teaching credential, and so it's a way to get out there and find people who have college training in the subjects that you're looking for, but don't yet have a credential. And in 2002, when I stopped umpiring as a professional baseball umpire in the minor leagues, Sac City and Sac State had an intern program, and that's how I got into teaching and fell in love with it. So not everybody has time or feels like they have time to go back and spend a year or 2 to get a credential. So if there's innovative and creative districts and organizations that go out and recruit people that don't have them yet and then help them get those credentials, then you can find some really great teachers.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And then this is my last question, I promise. So
Sure.
after you go to these schools, you get these really great, bright-eyed new educators, they come. What does Griffin do in order to retain them?
The same thing that Griffin should do to recruit students. Your best recruitment is the people you have with you right now today. Me personally, I'm the supervisor that I always wanted to work for. If I'm the supervisor I always wanted to work for, then that new teacher finds a home that they don't want to leave. People work for people, they don't work for organizations. So we have to treat them the way we would want to be treated if we want to keep them. And we do the same with students. If we're treating students and families that way, my kids go to a charter school, and the wait list K-12 for the charter school my kids attend exceeds their enrollment, because it's just a place everybody wants to be. You create the place that everybody wants to be, and you don't have to, and you still go to farmers markets because you just want to connect with the community, but you don't have to go to try to recruit to fill your classrooms.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you saying that. And I share those sentiments exactly. We are in the business of working with people. And I hope that at some point, Griffin actually connects heart to heart with their current employees to say, hey, I realized this year we got off to a pretty rocky start. Here are some ways that I can show you that I value you as a member of this team and for showing up, your loyalty. But also, like, can you help and go and spread this word to others so that they may want to come and join our team as well?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you for saying that.
You're welcome. I believe it's Kimberly. Why don't you go next? You haven't spoken yet.
Hi, good evening. And I thank you for your presentation. And I hope you are the boss that everybody wants to work for. Our director and our teachers have worked very hard with little this year, and they love our students. They love my child. They've worked hard for them, and they do deserve a great boss, somebody that appreciates them and shows them appreciation for all the hard work they've done, and to listen to them because they know what's best for our children because they're working with them every day. So I hope that you are really what you're going to do, what you're saying you're going to do, and try your best to make that happen for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Carla?
My last comment, when I was so happy to see that we were called to this meeting, because this is something we haven't had since the school started. And I know things are taking a little bit more time because we have been struggling. But I want to see this to be something regular in which parents can come and work together with the administration to make sure that all those points that we touched today, like those students not performing at the reading level, can we make sure that they are assigned, as you're saying, to that English, support course? Building, when you're building master schedules, Ms. Harris, like come and keep us informed and really asking us for support. That we're here to support you. And if I really want to see this type of meetings more often so we can do this together. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then the only other thing I would add to that is when we get to a conversation that I haven't even brought up with anyone yet, and that's grading for equity. What do our, and I don't know yet, I'm not judging, but what do grades in Griffin Technology Academy schools actually mean? What are they measuring? And when we have those conversations, I would like parents to be a part of that, because I think in some cases the grades are measuring behavior and not academic performance, participation and compliance and not academic outcomes. And is that what we want grades at GTA to measure? And I'd like parents and students to be a part of that conversation. Grades are always going to be the realm of teachers, but if we can help teachers understand what it is parents are looking for, and provide that, I think it goes a long way to creating an environment where students and families want to be, and it makes recruitment a lot easier. Joanna?
Thank you. I did want to comment on the piece about the retention of the teachers and staff that we have now. And I really, really appreciate Ms. Jarvis and Ms. Shenevert bringing this up as well. To know that we have parent support on this is amazing. Like, I just feel really good about that. However, we don't have that support necessarily from everybody in upper admin and on the board. And that is very clear when we ask for something like a stipend, because every single one of us have gone above and beyond for so long, in so many ways, and we get completely ignored. As well as when we have people, staff members, teachers who are doing things outside of their job descriptions, and we keep getting told that they cannot be compensated for those extra duties that they're taking on. I am so honored to work with the teachers and staff that I work with. And usually when things get this turbulent and this toxic at a school, we have a mass exodus of teachers and staff. And the fact that we have so many people who have stuck through so much, and we can't even get the slightest bit of appreciation and compensation for what we do is very disheartening. And I will say, I agree with you. I've brought this up at a couple of board meetings that the best recruitment is retention and a good reputation. But right now, coming to the end of this year, the morale is very low and we're trying to stick together. But we are mentally and emotionally drained, where some of us are getting very physically sick, and we're not being taken care of in the way that we should be. And so if this is your commitment, I would ask you to think about those things and bring them to the upper management that you work with, and show us that we are appreciated and that we should think about staying here for next year.
Yeah. And here's the commitment I'll make. I'll always share and advocate on your behalf because you're asking for things that I would ask for if I were in your shoes. But March of any school year in any school district, there's not a significant amount of money in that current school year's budget to spend, and the organization does have cash reserves, but I'm not in fiscal, so I don't know what those cash reserves may or may not be earmarked for. So I can't promise you that we'll be able to fulfill that request in the form of stipends. I'm not saying that
I'm gonna push
It
back
might
on
not.
that a little bit
Sure.
because I'm sorry, but bringing on a new superintendent with only a few months left and paying him an enormous amount of money, and I'm sure that the old superintendent has gotten some kind of payment and severance package, right? And so I am gonna push back on that. We have things that are being spent, school money on consultants that I'm not sure we needed, other things like that. And I just want to say, I think the money is there. And it will go a huge way in gaining the trust and keeping teachers. And we have a great, amazing group of teachers right now.
Yeah. And my point was just threefold, that I promised to advocate for you. I don't have decision-making authority when it comes to how money is spent outside of this potential A to G plan. And you can see of the $447,000, I want to give 407 of it to teachers. And I don't know, because I don't, what the organization has planned for the money that is available. I wasn't saying that, could it happen? No, I was saying I don't know. So I'll do what I can, and that's the best I can do. That's the only promise I can make for you. Anyone else? Anything else?
I'm gonna jump in unless you wanted to add anything else, Mr. Durham.
No, I'm just here to answer questions now. So
I appreciate that. I just wanted to share one more thing, and I think it's important to share because of what we've discussed here today and the changes we all believe need to be made and want to see. We did an assignment in our leadership class, and the way it works is I kind of assign it and the teachers go with it with the students, and so they all kind of do it in their own way. But one of the requirements was on March 1st, it was National Be Heard Day. I want to say March 7th, it was National Be Heard Day. And the students were asked to please let their voice be heard. Tell me anything you want to see changed about this school. What do you not appreciate? What do you not see as something that is actually supporting you? And so we had a lot of things, and I'm going to share them. I'm going to post this video of the meeting so that all families can review that data. But I also wanted to share this one partial excerpt from a student, not to make anybody feel bad or worse, because again, all of my teachers are working really hard. All of my staff are working really hard. And I've learned a lot through my failures as well as my successes. And I know this year, successes have been few and far between. So I wanted to read this student's statement. I'm not only speaking today for myself, I'm speaking for everyone. I'm speaking for every single student who needs to be heard. So please take a moment and hear what we, the students of Griffin Academy, have to say. As a 10th grader that is so close to graduating high school, my education is at the top of my priorities. I have been struggling to keep my education and the organization of this school on the same level. I feel like I'm not the only one who has been dealing with the same problem. Not having some teachers, not having a permanent classroom is hard to not let that invade the motivation that we need to do our work. and to turn our work in on time. All the while, the distraction of the lack of an actual teacher is still there. As a 10th grader of Griffin, I am able to say that it would be an honor to be the first class to graduate from this school. But if the situation and the organization of this school doesn't change for the better, for the students of this school, then the graduating class has a hard and dark tunnel. There are 3,892 high schools in California and approximately 10 high schools in Vallejo. I didn't fact check, but this is what this student said. We are lucky to be a part of this school. But some of my fellow classmates are going to move to other high schools here in Vallejo who offer sports teams, different curriculums. And I hate to say it, but it feels like they might be doing the right thing. What I would like is to see a school moving towards all of us working together to help students have a great education. As Leo Burnett said, great things happen when we work together. I believe that our Griffin Academy Griffin Technology Academy can become a great school and organization for our students and our future students. But to make it a better school, we all need to put in the time and provide something better for a greater school. I may be one person, one single student, but I believe working together as a united school and a united community, we can make this place better, a better school and a better community for Vallejo. So I just wanted to share that. Obviously, we all have a lot going on, but that's what a lot of our students have going on as well. So as I said, I've learned a lot from my failures, and we've had an uphill climb at this school particularly. As Mr. Durham said, we need to have an assessment 3 times a year. Our first assessment, we didn't have internet. Our second assessment, we had major COVID throughout, spreading throughout the school, and people were out. We didn't have people on staff. We didn't have people at the school. So we've had a lot of things impeding that. But what I want to bring it back to, and I think what Mr. Durham has brought it back to, and all of you have brought it back to through this whole meeting, is what's best for the students and the outcomes, the changes that we need to make to improve outcomes for students. And I've said a lot of times I'm a very collaborative leader, but I've also learned that I have failed at that as well, because you can't be a collaborative leader if you're not taking everyone's input into account. So I need to make sure that we are doing that regularly and that we're doing that as an ongoing process. And so while we have not been able to have a meeting like this, I would like to make sure you know that my intent is to continue that and to post these so families who were not able to attend can view it. Any questions or comments? Thank you guys so much for your time, and thank you so much for coming out. And I meant to have my video on when I did it. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here staring at it, but my video was not on. So thank you. I'm so sorry. Please stay on if you have any questions. Otherwise, have an amazing night. Again, if you have any questions about anything at all, this is your chance. And we will have another meeting soon, next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you. Hope everybody has a great
Ms.
night.
Harris, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I was trying to wait for a few
No,
people
that's
to get
okay.
off. One of my concerns was about the college courses, the college coursework that students like mine were not even able to enroll in. Has there been a plan set in place to address that yet?
We have the right person in the room. Mr. Durham has actually got a team together so he can get the plan in place. Basically, he's got a plan in place so that he can get everyone meeting to address this. I think his meeting got rescheduled by no fault of his own, but it should be very, very soon, Mr.
Yeah,
Durham.
So I'm posting the meeting, the curriculum and instruction committee meeting will happen at, I think it's noon on Friday. And
Okay.
I'll post that tomorrow. I've got one meeting in the morning
The truth or not was always probably a question, but even
to refine the,
Uh-oh.
I got a meeting in the morning to refine the plan because I want to be able to post the
Okay.
proposal as well. And
Yeah.
and so once I have that refined, it'll be the third time it's been polished. But once I have that refined
Okay.
proposal, it'll be up there. And I'll be honest, it's not, it doesn't go all the way I would want it to go, but it's a lot
Okay.
better. And I think eventually, I think we're going to revisit it, but we just want community members to know we're moving in the right direction for it, because
Yeah.
and here's the truth of it. The board wants us to make sure, and I absolutely agree, that we're not creating two classes of citizens. We're not creating a track for like the smart kids and a track for the not smart.
Mhm.
And so we're just having very serious and needed conversation about like, okay, what is that? Then if that's the goal, then what does the strategy look like? How do we still support students and encourage them to go through doors that we want to support them through that might be a little scary,
Mhm.
but without forcing everybody through that door because some might not be all the way ready. So
Yeah.
it's again, if it were easy, it would have been easy to fix, and it's just a complex problem.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Will parents have any input on that process?
So the way it's currently set up, parents will have the
Mhm.
ability to have comment during the public comment portion of the meeting. And I'm not sure if the committee's going to have it be a discussion item and then bring it back, or if they're going to have it be an action item and vote for it. But what I would recommend, and what I'm hoping, and why I had Ms. Harris send out that form, that Google form with the LCAP stuff,
Mhm.
like when I ask parents, like, what do you want from your school for your kids? Like, comment there, because all of that
Yeah.
information is going to make its way to the committees and to the board. Like
Yeah.
use that. And I'm already starting to get responses. I think I'm up to 12 responses on that form that Ms. Harris sent out already today. So yeah. And because an alternative to what we're doing right now was, and it was recommended or suggested, like, hey, let's take the next 6 months to figure out and completely involve stakeholders in the community about like, what does this change look like? But the need to do something quickly so that everyone knows, like, the board is serious about addressing this concern. This won't be the last time we look at it or make any kind of revision. But for right now, we want you to know, like, we're making progress towards what'll be the ultimate thing. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's the last time that we're going to talk about it.
It can't be, to be honest, and I say this respectfully.
Yeah.
But I have a 9th grader who is currently not on track to graduate from high school, whether that is with a high school diploma or an AA degree, and by no fault of his own.
Yeah.
So the idea of taking 6 months or even 6 more weeks before you guys are prepared to present parents with a, hey, like, in transparency, this is where we drop the ball, and this is what we feel like we can do in order to rectify this, whether that looks like summer school or them being able to take additional classes in 1 year. Like, I am really concerned that this is still like a part of just the planning process and that nothing has been defined yet. Because
Yeah.
I still have a son that's going to school every day, and he's still not going to graduate on time.
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that I made really clear to the committee members was that I want to make sure that we develop a plan that is a plan that everyone can get behind, that like this is going to be our long-term plan, like this is our vision for how it's going to work, and once we have that plan out there and we're supporting that plan fully, like that's the plan. But until we have that plan in place, everybody knows what it is, and we're as an organization supporting it fully, we need to be able to go to the board and say, okay, it took us 3 years to get this right. Any student who was at Griffin during that 3-year process, like we're going to make exceptions the way that AB 104 law made exceptions for the kids in the pandemic. Because, you know, the kids, it wasn't their fault the pandemic came along. Well, it's not your son's fault that we hadn't, you know, finalized and supported and knew exactly what the plan was going to be for this. So we're as long as I have a voice.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
As long as I have a seat at the table and a voice in the conversation, we're not going to hurt kids. And I don't know any board member that doesn't feel the same way, that doesn't want to protect kids. So
can they do the, I just have one question. Can we have them sign up for summer when they do summer college class? Because last time my both kids did, what did you guys do? In summer speech 120. So things, can they associate like that for this year too?
They can, and I only have one standing meeting so far in the district, and that's with the academic advisors at both high schools and the registrar. And I found out there were some issues with transcripts. So I'm anticipating that Martina, our registrar, is going to start adding a bunch of information to transcripts now that she has clear direction on how to do it. And so yes, any of those classes that they took at the community college during the summer that are going to be dual enrollment and for high school graduation purposes also are going to be added, and credits going to be awarded. And
no, my question was, will that opportunity will be there on this at this summer? Can they enroll in summer classes?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
I'm muting unless somebody has a question.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you guys again so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Ms. Harris, again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lam.
You're welcome.